For a guy that's teaching people how to tell stories and tell them better, you would think that I wouldn't have trouble telling my own personal stories. But people are funny sometimes, and I fall into that category. I have trouble being vulnerable sometimes. I would guess that everybody does, but I'm not sure if I experience it more often than others. I can't really speak to it because I don't know how often people feel vulnerable and don't feel vulnerable. But I find myself having trouble with being more vulnerable somewhat regularly. There are seasons of my life where it's easier, and then seasons of my life where it's harder, and recently it's been harder. I've had trouble being vulnerable with people in my life, with, in story writing, in the things that I want to do, the passions that I want to pursue. There are things that, I have trouble sharing with people that are close to me, like my fiance. There's nothing wrong, nothing, I don't have any bad information to share with her. Like, there's nothing wrong. I just have trouble sharing it just because I am in a season of feeling less vulnerable. And I don't know why or what really causes it. I guess I have some ideas. I'll explore those throughout this video and kind of talk about the personal struggle that I've had with being vulnerable and sharing my stories and the difficulty behind it. And some ways that I'm working to get back into being more comfortable sharing my own stories. Perhaps how you could do the same. This channel exists to actually help me get back into telling stories. This channel, Stories Solved. This one video is a part of a 5 video launch that I'm doing. The other videos are more about tips and tricks, and this one I just kind of wanted to share my heart for the channel and talk about who I am. My name is Preston. I want to use this channel to help get back into telling my own stories, and I figured that teaching people how to tell their stories more effectively would encourage me to uh, become more open and get back into writing more myself and telling more stories myself. I've got background in public speaking, so I've told several different stories of my own and of others through speech and debate competitions. And then I've been a spokesperson for a company, and now I'm maybe going to be a spokesperson for another company here soon. I've done a lot of public speaking and representing stories of my own and of others. I have a decent history too of writing stories. It's not quite as extensive as my verbal speaking of stories, but I enjoy writing stories. I've written several. A lot of them were for classes, but I want to get back into more writing, especially with this channel. I figured that in order to be teaching you guys further about storytelling, I'll have to be writing more so that I can remember things that I've learned in the past, find new things that I can share with you guys, and be learning more about storytelling in general that I can communicate to you. I'll be your curator of good ideas, bad ideas when it comes to writing, and things that I can help you with. And so that is a purpose that I have for this channel. That's a hope that I have for this channel, is that it exists as something that is doing that for you, and is also helping me share my own stories, because it's important that we share our own stories. We have experiences that we've faced in our lives that can be extremely impactful to somebody else and can cause them to take a different action than perhaps they would have otherwise. So, for example, let's say, like, if you wrote a story about bullying and the way that impacted a child in your story, a 12-year-old kid, uh, and that 12-year-old kid is meant to reflect you, because a lot of your best writing is actually going to be from personal experiences that you have faced in your life yourself. It doesn't have to be the exact plot of what happened in your life, but certain aspects of you and experiences that you've faced is going to just inevitably make its way onto the page, and that's going to be some of your best writing. And so you have to be willing to be vulnerable in that sense. But anyway, using an experience like that as an example, Someone could come across that story, read it, and then realize the way that they've been treating people in their class is mean, just like the character that was mean in your story. And then they decide to change their ways and start acting more nice with the people that they're with, the kids that they're around. And it's a huge impact for the better in the entire class and the entire school. I mean, that's one impact that a story could have. Or a story could inspire somebody to, start chasing after a dream again that maybe they had let go of. Maybe me sharing my story right now is helping to inspire you to think about what are some ways that I could start sharing my own stories or the ideas for stories that I've had sitting in the back of my mind for the last few years that I've not taken action on. The power of stories is immense and can cause hundreds of butterfly effects that you can't even begin to imagine. There's power behind stories because there's power behind words. The tongue holds the power of life and death, and is what it says in the Bible, and that's 100% true. Words have immense power, and through stories you can use that power for good, to help change society and have a massive positive influence on the world around you, and maybe even the world in general, depending on how widespread your story becomes and how many people read or listen to or watch it. But again, all of this impact that you could have or that I could have all hinges on being comfortable with sharing your own personal stories. And that is hard because a lot of us, I'm sure, are wanting to maybe avoid the things that happened to us or forget the things that we experienced when we were younger. We want to ignore them. We don't want to think about them. But a lot of your story writing, will be influenced by the things that happened to you in your past. And so you're going to have to confront a lot of those experiences in one way or another. You will have to confront those experiences. It can help others through that same experience who's going through it right now. It can help you process it yourself and feel better about what happened or maybe what you did or just, whatever happened in that situation regarding your own personal story. You could, have closure on it through writing a story that encompasses part of it, which can be, really helpful and really impactful. But again, all of this hinges on you being willing to share your own personal stuff. Neil Gaiman puts it this way in his masterclass. He said that writing a story is you have to be uncomfortably open. He describes it as opening up your chest to the world so they can see who you are, because you're putting yourself, whether you think it or not, you're putting a lot of yourself into the writings that you're creating. And so people are going to see parts of you that maybe you didn't want people to see. People are going to learn about parts of you that maybe you didn't want them to know. And you just have to be not comfortable, but okay with it. Because you can be scared of the situation that might be happening. You can be scared of sharing your story, and you can be afraid that, there's going to be problems that come with sharing your story. But at the end of the day, being bold is about taking action even when you're scared. So I'm pretty sure that's a Neil Gaiman quote as well from the masterclass, but so I won't take credit for that. But you have to take action even when you're scared, and that's what will make you bold. That makes you a bold story writer. And being bold is how you impact people. It's how you have a difference. That's how you have an influence and how you make a difference in your community and the people that read your writings. You just need to do that to have an impact and to have the impact that you want to have through the things that you're doing. So when I look at my own life and my own personal battle with sharing my stories and being okay, not comfortable, but okay with that idea of opening up my chest, letting people see all of the things, it just takes practice. It takes practice, and it takes repeated, exposure to sharing yourself on these pages, on these words, again and again. And slowly but surely, not only will you be okay with it, but maybe you will feel more comfortable with it, with sharing yourself more in the stories that you write. You just have to start somewhere. And if you want to, this depends on who you are. Some people like to systemize things to make measured progress and make sure they're always moving forward. I think there's value behind it. Not everybody functions the best that way, but I found that systems can be good for me when they're set up in the right way. So maybe as an example, you set up a system where you commit to write one 3-page short story every single week. And each short story needs to incorporate some factor of you in it. And you can interpret that however you like to, because at the end of the day, you can share as much of you as you like. I can share as much of me as I like in my own writings. We don't have to just, put our entire life story in every single story that we write. But, if you wanted to systemize it and give yourself a challenge, you could do something like that to slowly expose yourself to it. And then every time you finish a story, then you could send it to a few people that you trust and say, hey, I'm getting back into writing stories, or I want to try writing stories. Like, here is a 3-page story that I wrote. Will you read it and let me know what you think? And doing that, exposing yourself to outside voices, and it's nice at the beginning if they're trusted outside voices, of course. But exposing yourself to outside voices will have a large impact on the way that you feel about sharing yourself. Because I would venture to say that you'll probably get responses from people talking about how, they're glad to read a story that is about the subject matter that you wrote it about, and how you might have given a unique perspective that they would not have thought about otherwise. And now that's, changed the way that they think in regards to that particular theme that you talked about, or that, particular plot that you talked about in your story. So I guess at the end of the day, the important thing regarding this and my own personal trouble with sharing my stories would be just to get back into the habit of it. If you're facing the same problem, you just need to be just a little bit more confident than you are right now to get a story out there, to write a story. Maybe the first 3 that you write, you don't show anybody, but you just write them down, and then you read it out loud to yourself, or to your cat or your dog, or a pet rock that you picked up when you were walking home this morning, or to your water bottle. You could read it to somebody, read it to yourself, read it to whatever's in your house that's not another person, if you're not immediately comfortable with that idea. I personally worked at a Chick-fil-A for 3.5 years. So behind the camera, behind you, I've got 5 different cows set up on my bookshelf. Here, actually, let me grab a couple of them. I'll show you. Here are some of my cows that I have from Chick-fil-A. This one is a Christmas cow. He's got reindeer antlers, and then this one is a little drummer boy cow, and then the third one is a birthday cow that I got on my birthday. So this is just a silly example, but this could be your audience. You could use stuffed animals that you have, and you could tell your story to them, and it just gives you practice exposing your story outside of just the internal voice in your own head. You now are verbalizing it and putting it out into the world physically, speaking it out, and then you work your way up to sharing it with trusted close friends, and then maybe you share it with trusted family members, and then maybe you share it with people that you don't trust as much but are still friends, and you slowly but surely expand further and further, and then maybe you share your first story like publicly on some website or forum, or just wherever. You share it on uh, Twitter or Instagram, or you could put it on YouTube. You could record yourself telling the story and put captions on the video, and it's just a black screen with captions. You could do something like that, and you could share it. You could share your story and let others who aren't trusted hear it for the first time, so that you can start to see maybe the kind of impact that we all hope to see with the stories that we write. We want the things that we write and the things that we do to have a positive impact on our world and the people around us. And I think the only way that we can do that is by being more vulnerable and being willing to share the things that we do, the things that we write, the things that we work on, and the stories that we have to share. So, this video and this channel is a commitment to myself to be more vulnerable with who I am, the stories that I have to tell, the stories that I haven't told yet, um, and empowering people to be able to do the same. So, with that being said, I would encourage you, if you want to stick around for the journey, I'd be happy to provide an update video down the road, 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, how I'm feeling in regards to storytelling and my willingness to be vulnerable about it later on. But if you want to stick around for it, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that this doesn't get lost in the YouTube void. And this video is a part of 4 other videos that I'm uploading. So I've got videos talking about different tips for help writing your first story. So maybe you're watching this and you've never written a story before, but after hearing this, maybe now you do. Well, I've got a video about how to write a good short story with no experience. It's got 4 practical tips that you could apply right now and write a 2 or 3 page short story. I've got a video on writer's block and how to beat writer's block. So you can go check out those videos on my channel right now if you're watching this. But the most important thing from this video is just be a little bit more comfortable today, or a little bit more okay today, with the idea of being vulnerable in the stories that you write. And I think if we all can collectively do this together day by day for just a little while, then we'll start to see ourselves really change and start to have an impact not only on ourselves personally and each other, but also have an impact on the broader spectrum of people around us. So happy writing, be vulnerable, and I'll do the same with you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.